You know, it feels like we're all just talking all the time. But are we really connecting? So today, let's explore this really simple but powerful idea: how our words can find their proper place and create some real meaning, even in the middle of all this noise. Wow, this quote just hits home, doesn't it? We are swimming in a sea of opinions and hot takes. Everyone seems to have the answer, but it often feels like we're just shouting into the void. It's almost like the real connection just gets lost. So yeah, how do we break through all that? How do our words stop being just more noise and actually start to mean something? That's the big question we're going to dig into today. So let's start by looking at the world we're all trying to communicate in. All right, first up, let's dive into this whole idea of living in a world that is just overflowing with words, where it seems like everyone is talking, but you can't help but feel that not much is actually being said. Right, so it's not about who can shout the loudest. The goal isn't to be the loudest person in the room. It's about finding words that actually land, that truly connect. Think about it. The most profound things you've ever heard were probably spoken quietly, not yelled from a rooftop. It's all about making an impact, not just making noise. So, if it's not about volume, what's it all about? Like, what really makes a word feel, well, true? How does it hit that sweet spot where it actually lands with someone and makes a real difference? Okay, I love this analogy. See, truth isn't just about knowing the facts. You absolutely need that expert who can hand you the map, right? The data, the hard facts. But you also need a companion, a friend, to actually walk that path with you. I mean, what good is a map if you don't know how to read the terrain, right? And that's where that shared lived experience is just everything. So, a word that's really true. It has a whole anatomy, a journey it has to take. First, it has to come from the heart, right? It's got to be sincere. Then you have to weigh it with your mind. It's got to make sense. And finally, and this is crucial, it has to be tested in life. It's got to hold up in the real world. Oof, this one can be tough, but it is so important. I mean, we all have that little voice inside that just needs to be right, that wants to win the argument. But what if finding the actual truth means we have to let go of that, just for a second? It means putting our ego on the back burner, lowering our defenses, and just listening. Like, really listening. Okay, so if these true words really do come from the heart, then it kind of begs the question, right? What's going on in our hearts? And that leads us to maybe the most crucial piece of this entire puzzle: the wisdom of knowing yourself. Have you ever noticed this? When you're feeling a little unsure or kind of confused, you just talk more? You ramble, you over-explain everything? It's almost like we're trying to use a flood of words to find some clarity, but all it really does is create more noise for everybody. But here's the magic. According to the poet Eunice Emre, when you truly know yourself, when you are solid in who you are and what you believe, something incredible happens. Your words just find their place. They become sharp, focused, and powerful. You don't even have to force it. They just land. All right, so we've been talking a lot about the words that come out of us, but what about the world we're taking in? How are we interpreting all the things that happen to us? And this brings us to this really beautiful idea, the language of blessing. The whole idea here is to make a little shift in our perspective. What if we started seeing everything around us not as just stuff, but as gifts? Things that we've been entrusted with. I mean, yeah, the air and water, but also our ability to reason, our awareness, that little voice inside, our conscience, even guidance like the book and the prophet. These aren't just things we have, they're things we're responsible for. So a blessing isn't just, getting that thing you wanted. It's more like an invitation. It's like the universe itself is tapping you on the shoulder, saying, hey, psst, pay attention. There's something deeper happening here. It's a call to wake up. And there's a really important distinction to make here. I mean, anybody can enjoy a fantastic meal or a beautiful sunny day, right? Those are the material favors, the things everyone can see. But what about those spiritual favors, those sudden flashes of insight, or that overwhelming feeling of gratitude for just being here? You only really perceive those if your conscience, your inner awareness is switched on. Okay, so it's one thing to notice these blessings, but what do we actually do with them? Our response, that's where our freedom of choice really comes into play. You could almost see it as a kind of test. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. We get to choose our reaction. So if we mess up, and we all do, If we falter, it's not game over. We can turn back, repent, try to make it right. And that act of turning back, that itself is a victory. And on the flip side, when things are going great, when we're filled with joy, our choice is simple. Give thanks. That simple act of gratitude is so powerful, it completes the circuit. It turns just getting stuff into a real, meaningful exchange. And this is the key takeaway, really. The blessing itself isn't the point. It's neutral. The real danger is misreading it, because if we look at that gift through the lens of our own pride or envy, it can become toxic. It's our response that truly defines everything. Okay, so where does all of this lead us? We've looked at the words we speak and how we see the world. Now, how do we stitch it all together? How do we live a story that feels a little bit truer, a little more authentic? And here it is, the bottom line. The whole point of this journey isn't to become a better debater or to have the perfect comeback ready. No, the right response to finding truth is just to live a little more rightly. It's about taking those small, quiet steps to align how we act with what we know is true. And that brings us to one last, really profound thought about why we even bother talking to each other at all. What if the entire point of our words, our big explanations, our carefully crafted stories isn't actually what we've always thought it was? What if our words aren't a destination, not a final answer we're trying to arrive at? But what if they're more like a lantern, something we hold up to light the path, both for ourselves and for each other, just to keep from getting lost along the way? Something to think about, right? Thanks for joining me on this exploration.